Hey there, Elizabeth Johnston, your story coach for visionary entrepreneurs. So, today I'm going to talk about organizing your schedule. And this is something that I've realized is really super important to do for my clarity and for my productivity. So, some of you may be in the situation where, yes, you are growing your online business, your online coaching business or consultancy business, doing, that online work. And maybe you also have a really big contract or you're teaching like I am, or you're doing something else that's separate from your online business that you're nurturing and growing, but you're doing this other thing because it's necessary, maybe for paying your bills, um, or it's something that you love to do and you're doing it at the same time. And I know that it's really difficult sometimes to juggle all of those priorities. And one of the things that I actually teach at the university is how to manage your time, how to manage your time between work and school and family. And I'm always amazed at how many people don't realize that there are only 168 hours in the week. That's it. That's all. And 1/3 of that is for your sleep. So that's like 56 hours in the week. And then let's say you're, between your online business and maybe that side hustle that you're doing, it's 40 hours minimum of work. So then that only leaves 72 hours, 3 days to do your grocery shopping, to be cooking, to be going to your religious affiliation, to be doing your laundry, to be having family time, all of those things, meditating, everything else is just stuffed into that 72 hours. And if we are spending a lot of time scrolling on social or watching Netflix or watching a bunch of reels, that eats up that remaining 72 hours in no time. And so it's really important, as entrepreneurs, that we maximize our time and we know where we're spending our time. So many times when I get my students or my clients to go through this exercise, they are shocked at how much time that they actually do have that they could reorganize and use for more productive things, including just chill out time or self-care time. That's a really important component as well. And so the first thing that I do is I tell my clients, I tell my students, write down all of the non-negotiables. Get a 24-hour sheet, Monday to Sunday to Saturday, so all 7 days, 24 hours, and then put down the non-negotiables in your day. So like if you're showing up for your side gig or part-time job, if you're you have to eat, you have to travel perhaps to where you're doing your part-time job, put all of that down first. And as well, if you're religious and you go every week, then put that down. That's a non-negotiable. Eating is a non-negotiable. Sleeping is a non-negotiable. So like all of those things, like put them down into your schedule and then see what time is left over. And in terms of what time is left over, then you start slotting in laundry time, cleaning the house, doing your grocery shopping, making your meals, everything else around that. And oftentimes what we end up seeing in this first run at it, because it's a process, we realize that we actually don't have enough hours in the week for doing everything that we think we're doing. And so then we have to start making some decisions about, what are we going to not be doing anymore? What are we going to reprioritize? What are we going to let go of in order to focus on what's really important to us right now? And if you're like me, it's probably creating your online business and really growing it. And so keeping in mind what that priority is for you, you make some decisions about what you're going to juggle around in your schedule. And maybe you want to keep everything, but you're going to have to reduce some of the time that you spend on some of those things. And so then you get it all set up so that 24/7 you have everything itemized. Now, I know that some of you might be saying, no, I can't stand organizing things to that degree because it feels too constricting. It feels like I have no room to breathe. Well, I understand where you're coming from. And being a creative spirit, I've often said the same thing to myself, but it's actually the opposite. When you actually create a container for every single thing that's important in your life, you will feel this sigh of relief because you no longer feel like you are letting yourself down because you've planned for it. You've put space into your schedule for it. Now, the other aspect of it is that when you've itemized everything, sometimes life happens, right? And somebody, unexpectedly comes into town to visit you haven't seen for 5 years, and you just, you have to visit with them. So then you look at your schedule and say, okay, I'm not going to do what I put in my schedule for this evening because I'm seeing my friend, but I am going to do what I was supposed to do today on another part of my schedule. And that's why it's so important to even your downtime, to put that in, itemize that. This is downtime, because psychologically it gives you the mental room to realize that, okay, if there's something unexpected that happens in my life, that I planned for it, it's in my schedule, and I can rise to the challenge, I can deal with that, and it's not going to be upsetting like the whole apple cart, right? So yes, there is this beauty in being really organized and having everything itemized, but then you also have to realize that sometimes you have to flex and be flexible. Now, once you get it all done and it's all itemized, and you've recovered from the shock of realizing that there is only 168 hours in a week, then what you do, and this is a really important step, is that you shadow yourself. So with this schedule that you created, you print it off and you carry it with you for a whole week. You fold it up, put it into your pocket, and then every time you complete a chunk of something, that you take out your schedule and put a check mark beside that task or that activity for that day. And then if you did something different, you put an X beside that and you pencil in what it is that you did instead. Okay. So this is just a really great, shadowing activity that I've done myself multiple times before I started teaching this. And I was amazed too at, oh yeah, I thought this was going to be enough time, or I thought that I would need a whole bunch of time for this, but in fact I needed less, or I needed more. So you can make adjustments after, your shadow experiment, and then you modify your schedule the following week to incorporate the things that you realized in real time, in real life, that you actually need more time or less time for. And it also is a great opportunity to recognize how much time that you're wasting. Stephen Covey talks about the 4 quadrants, and that, ideally we want to be in that quadrant that is important, but not urgent. And like, how many of you have felt that, yes, you get the important things done in your week, but you're always feeling like you're rushing? Well, if you are one of those that feels like you're always rushing and that you're always doing things at the last minute and the things that are important that have to get done, then you're not planning your week well enough. And so once you get that weekly schedule, kind of done and dusted after your week of shadowing yourself, you make your adjustments, you go through it again, and you just take note. It's like, okay, is this really a good schedule for me for maybe the next 3-4 months? For me, I make a new schedule every season, basically, because I do have teaching in my schedule. And so my hours will change based on the semester that we're in. And so I always do this, again. But, you could maybe do it for a year, but it probably is good just to do it like for 3 months, let's say, or if you're starting now, let's do it from now until the end of December and see how it goes. Right? And then you can make some changes for in January. Maybe you can extend it to like 3 or 4 months and see how that works for you and adjust it as you go along. But having that weekly schedule isn't the end of the story. You also need an agenda, right? So you have your weekly schedule, which is by and large what you're doing every single week. But in your agenda, what you're going to do is put in the details of what project that you're working on. So, if you have working on your business every morning from 9 a.m. till noon, let's say, you're going to have different things in each of those time slots throughout the week. And that's what you put into your agenda, the specifics of which campaign or which email sequence or which funnel that you're working on. Okay. So that goes into your agenda. The third document that is going to be really helpful for you is that overview. So like a 3-month overview, maybe you have one already on your wall, and it gives you all of the projects that you're going to be doing in the near future and with their deadlines and the different steps, right? So you have this macro view, you have the micro view in your agenda, and then you have the weekly overview, okay? So those are the 3 documents that I highly recommend that you create and really do, stick to it. I still have a paper agenda, and after I do my Google Calendar, that's what I use is for Google Calendar, and then I have my agenda where I put down the nitty gritty of what I'm doing each week. But I have that Google Calendar, and it does take time. I'm not going to lie to you. It takes some time to figure it out and do that shadow experiment and refine it. But it is so worth it in the end. So I'm going to share with you my Google Calendar, and so you can see what my week looks like. And so this is my week, and so I get up at 5 a.m. and I try to get to bed by 9 p.m. and that gives me my 8 hours of sleep every day. And so all of the orange spots here are when I'm working on my online business. And the gray parts are when I'm doing my teaching. And this semester, it's quite different because that usually I just take a couple of courses, maybe even just one course per semester. But this year, there are no courses available for me to teach in the winter. So I doubled up on what I usually teach. And that's why there's so much gray matter here. But typically I will have less than half of the gray area here, and then that gives me more time to work on my business and other activities that I might engage in. So so meditation is really important for my self-care. Then I get ready, have my breakfast. And also part of my self-care routine is I walk every day, and I try to, piggyback it onto when I'm taking the bus into the university. And so I actually walk to a bus stop that's quite far away, at least, half an hour of a walk. And then I get a bit of a walk. And then when I get to my destination, I also plan to have a walk. It's about a 20-minute walk. And so I try to get, at least 30 to ideally 90 minutes of a walk every day. And yeah, and like a lot of times people, when they're putting these schedules together, they don't realize like, oh my goodness, it actually takes me an hour, to get to where I need to go and then back. So it's 2 hours every day of transit time. And for me. And so anyway, this is my schedule for the rest of this session. And sometimes though, like I said, there are things that happen, and so I will sometimes have to take less time for my meal prep or spend less time on my housework or something like that. But also you see here that there's 2 areas here that I didn't actually put anything in there, and so that's really just my extra spare downtime. And I really should label that as well. But and so last week I went to see Nick Cave in concert, and you can see I don't have any space in my schedule for that. But what I ended up doing was taking some time from other activities and making sure that I get everything done. And I came home later than I normally would because the show didn't finish until after 10 p.m. So, and yeah, and then, coming home and it was late and whatever, so there are those exceptions, but generally speaking, this is the schedule that I stick to. The other thing too here is that, I've got marking laid out in my schedule as well. And that is very fluid and flexible depending on, whether students have submitted anything that week or not. So that extra time that I'm not spending on marking could go to my work or could do some other activity or self-care or, more meditation. I'm always a fan of doing that. And that's part of my bedtime routine as well, is to do some meditation and listening to some positivity tapes and, that kind of stuff, just to like wind down my day. And, I forget which guru said it, but he said like the last 5 minutes of your day is the most important before you go to bed, because if you are rehashing all the negative stuff that may or may have happened, to you during that day, then you're actually programming your brain before you go to sleep to be thinking about all of that. And then you wake up thinking about, oh, how life is so this or that, or not working out for you, or whatever. And so I make a point of practicing gratitude, going over what what was good about the day, and just giving thanks. And so that's important. And so I'm just gonna stop my share here for you and stop screen. There we go. And I'm back. So I hope this was helpful to you, that it does take some time and some effort to organize your schedule like this, but in the end it's so worth it, because then you start understanding what's important to you, which priority you're going to focus on now, and how are you going to fit in everything that's important to you. Sometimes that means leaving some things out or postponing them, especially if you have a particular goal in mind for your online business. Maybe there's a particular monetary goal that you want to reach, or to have a certain number of people in your course, or something like that. And so naturally, you're going to be spending a little bit of an extra amount of time in realizing that goal, and you're going to be putting off some of those other things that you may like to have been focusing on, some downtime things or family things or whatever. And they might have to take a back seat for the moment. But it's so important to, think about family, self-care, your religious life, your spiritual life, walking in nature, doing all of those things that are important, cultivating, friendships and maintaining them, staying connected to family that are maybe not in the same area as you. All of these things are so important. We're social beings. We're not all about work. We're not all about making money. And if we focus on that to the exclusion of everything else, in the long run, we're doing ourselves harm. And so that's why I love creating this schedule, because it's a visual reminder of everything that is important to me. And it allows me to figure out how to fit it all in. And it allows me to figure out how to put it back in when life gets, throws me a curveball, or when Nick Cave comes to town. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, or, wanted to talk a little bit more about this, maybe I could put together a little workshop for people. If that interests you, let me know. You can post a comment below this video, or you can contact me through the show notes if you're listening to this on my podcast. So this is day 2 of my 14-day run leading up to my birthday on October 28th. Yeah, so this is actually kind of like a birthday present to me, is to be consistent with showing up and chatting with you about things that I think are important for the entrepreneurial spirit and journey. So see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.